submissives need grace for. Because power exchange does not remove humanity. Roles do not remove emotional complexity, titles do not eliminate mistakes, and experience does not prevent struggle. Too often, people enter dynamics believing they must always be composed, emotionally regulated, confident, self aware, and fully evolved at all times. But ethical connection requires something many people struggle to give: grace. Before we begin, just want to let you all know this is an educational discussion. It is not therapy, diagnosis, or replacement for professional care. We will be discussing behavioral patterns, emotional regulation, relational expectations, and psychological frameworks that may feel familiar or uncomfortable. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, but remain honest with yourself. Now let's get into it. But of course, we got to start off with our nice grounding. So I give you Miss Serenity.
Before we continue, let's take a breath in, hold it, and release. Relax your shoulders, unclench your jaw. Now ask yourself, where are you demanding perfection from yourself or from others? Tonight is not just about excusing harm. It's about understanding the difference between accountability and impossible expectations. Do you allow room for humanity or only performance? Let's take one more breath and exhale and stay grounded. Let's begin.
Mm-hmm. All right, you guys, let's start here. Being in a role does not make someone emotionally flawless. Dominants need grace because relationships are not built between archetypes. All right, guys. One of the biggest misconceptions in kink spaces is the belief that confidence equals competence. People often assume dominants should already know everything. Submissives should naturally understand how to submit. Experienced people should never struggle, and mistakes should not happen after a certain point. But learning does not stop once the title's claimed. It's an ongoing process, and growth does not disappear once someone becomes experienced. I like to say it's a constant learning journey. You should constantly be learning, constantly be evolving, constantly pushing the boundaries or the understandings of who you are. Ethically healthy dynamics make room for correction without humiliation, growth without shame, and communication without punishment for imperfection. Because people learn relational skills through practice and not performance.
Exactly. Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I was having mic issues. So we're going to go ahead and head to the chat. So for everyone on the Zoom in the chat, what is something you had to learn the hard way about relationships, communications, or power exchanges? You can go off mute, raise your hand, or you can drop it in the chat and Sheba will read the comments. Again, what is something you had to learn the hard way about relationships, communication, or power exchange?
All right. I see we're starting out quiet tonight.
Not to
Okay.
assume that he should know everything already.
Say that again for me.
Not to assume he already knows everything.
That's a good one. Definitely.
Nelly adds, people aren't mind readers. Yeah,
Right.
that's a big one. Listen, S types and D types, we can't be out here expecting people just to know what we thinking. Verbalizing. We constantly push communication, and that's from both sides because you can assume I know what you mean or what you want, but my head be in a cloud half the time. I can be somewhere far left field, and you like, I just wanted a cup of coffee. My bad, I didn't. And I'm just using that as an example because, of course, I'm just going to get up and get coffee. But that communication is necessary to keep the dynamic flowing and growing as a unit and not just individuals. Bree adds, I had to learn to compromise in certain situations. Definitely, this dynamic is all about compromise. Hard limits, soft limits, that's compromise in itself. Deciding what you will and won't take. So compromise is definitely important. Sugar asks, everybody ain't straight, healed, done the work on themselves. Yeah. And it's up to us to practice discernment. You got to figure out when someone is ready to take that journey with you and when they are still in the midst of their own that kind of prevents them from making that connection. Let me see here. Candy yams. I like that name. Makes me hungry. As a brat, I have to check my tone and delivery when expressing my emotions. And sometimes I succeed and sometimes I don't. I definitely get that, candy yams, more than I care to admit. But that's the beauty about this growth journey. You're human. You're gonna make mistakes, but the acknowledgement of that mistake and the willingness to do the work to make the correction moving forward is really what counts here.
Definitely.
Zadi adds, stay open, not expecting someone to show up the way I would. Meet people where they are and communicate my needs as explicitly as possible. Yep, that is definitely it. And Cope for ads, I can't heal everyone. You
Yeah.
can't. That is a big one. I think that's something that happens on both sides of the slash a
Yeah.
lot.
Definitely.
Yeah. People trying to heal folks, that is a self journey to healing. I can assist you. I can be a confidant, I can be a partner, I can be a friend. I can take that journey with you, but you gotta drive the car.
Yeah.
What make you
You
love
gotta drive the car. This is your road trip. I'm just along for the ride. So that's
right?
definitely true, Co. We have no more comments in the chat thus far though, Summer.
All righty. So we're going to go ahead and head to our next section is grace for emotional reaction. People often expect emotional regulation to look perfect, but emotional regulation is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to navigate emotion responsibly. Sometimes people become overwhelmed, shut down, become reactive, struggle to communicate clearly in real time, which happens a lot often than we'd like to admit. And while accountability still matters, ethical dynamics recognize that emotional processing is not always immediate or linear. According to emotional regulation research, stress and emotional I'm sorry, activation can temporarily reduce clarity, communication, efficiency, and behavioral control. That comes from Gross in 1998, a case study. So grace is not pretending impact doesn't matter. Grace is understanding that being emotionally affected is part of being human. And
Definitely. And that leads us
grace
into
is
our
very
next case
necessary.
study. This is
Yeah.
delayed emotional processing. A person
Mhm.
experiences discomfort during a difficult relational conversation, but instead of responding immediately, they initially minimize it and continue the interaction normally. Hours later, or even days later, the emotional impact fully surfaces. Now, frustration becomes clearer, emotional intensity increases, communication becomes more difficult. The other person becomes confused because the reaction appears late. But delayed processing is a well documented emotional regulation phenomenon. According to affected regulation research, emotional understanding and verbal processing often occur after physiological activation decreases. That comes both from Gross 98 as well as Siegel in 2012. So the delayed reaction is not necessarily manipulation or instability. Sometimes it is simply delayed emotional integration. Alrighty. Now we're going to move on. And our next section is grace for imperfect communication. Ooh, this title alone,
That's a good
you
one.
would think that I wouldn't write the script. Says personals that feels. When you say it out loud,
Yeah.
people love saying communication is important. They do.
Mhm.
We preach it ourselves. Communication,
Yeah.
communication, communication. But
Effective
very few
communication.
people. What was that, boo boo?
I said effective communication.
Effective. Oh, yeah. Effective communication. There we go. But listen, we'll always include that word. We just say communicate. But she is absolutely correct. It is effective communication that's important. But very few people actually acknowledge how difficult communication actually becomes under stress, vulnerability, fear, insecurity, disappointment, or emotional attachment. Sometimes people communicate imperfectly because they fear conflict, they fear abandonment, they lack relational modeling, or they struggle identifying what they feel in real time. Now, let's be clear, guys. Poor communication can still create harm, but ethical connection requires distinguishing between malicious behavior and underdeveloped relational skill. Not every imperfect moment is manipulation. Sometimes it's immaturity, sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's dysregulation, and sometimes it's simply inexperience.
Definitely. So we're going to go ahead and head to the chat. What communication habit are you still actively working on? And of course, you can come off mute, raise your hand, or you can drop it in the chat, and the lovely Sheepa will read the comments. Again, what communication habit are you still actively working on?
Come on, you guys. Let's somebody working on so. Okay, there we go, Stephanie. Stephanie says she's working on speaking her mind.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All righty. Let's see here. All right, Sugar adds my non-confrontational status. I ghost folks. Come on, Sugar. We can't be ghosting folks. Um, it's
Not
easy to turn off the
miscommunicator.
emotion.
I know not miscommunicator be ghosting folks.
You said what?
I said that's miscommunicator. How she ghosting folks? Sugar,
Good
now,
evening and do.
now.
Good evening and do. Cause anytime I feel like if every time I hear from you, either my brain contorts or I feel like crying, I don't know how to voice it. I'm working on it, but I don't
Yeah.
know how to voice it. I will ghost. I will act like you don't exist. I have to do that. I'm working on it. My best friend tells me all the time ghosting is toxic behavior, and I know that. But I don't know how to just say. I don't know how I my filter stopped working around age about 38, and I'd be 50 in August. So like I don't really know how to say nicely. I don't want to fucking talk to you no more. You get on my fucking nerves. So I gotta stop and think about it a different. I apologize for cursing, but I have to. I don't know how to say it. Like it's a guy in my inbox right now that's been trying to meet up with me since the 15th, and I have a very active lifestyle. And every day is sugar. Can I see you today? Sugar. Can I see you? No, fucking no. You missed out the
Um,
first time when you had your cricket game. So I don't want to do it no more. And I don't know how to say I don't want to do it no more without saying I don't want to do it no more. So he about to be blocked as of tomorrow. But I'm working on. I promise I'm working on it. I promise I'm gonna fix it. But I'm gonna fix it. But I don't want to right now. I'm
you
sorry.
know, want to. Well, the most important part is you're gonna work on it. You're trying to work on it because ghosting is not good. But yeah, I mean, you have no filter, so you just have to wait. You have to learn how to tactfully say things. Because I do also. So DM me. I'll give you some tips. Work in progress. Hallelujah.
Alrighty. Okay, moving on, Sugar. We're gonna pray. Listen, you progress is progress. Baby steps, baby steps. You didn't snap off rip. So that is a win.
Yeah.
Uh now we just gotta figure out how to say it nicely. That's it. And that's what we're here for. Feel free to inbox me if you need some nice phrases because I was the queen. Listen, my sister told me at one point, I don't understand how a man has knocked your black off. So my mouth used to be really, really horrible. But I take a breath, I pause, I write out what I want to say, and then if all push comes to shove, run it through Chat GPT. Say this nicely. Um, I need you to say this in a way that won't hurt anybody's feelings. This is what I want to say, and I need you to put that in nice little PG terms for me. Appreciate you. That always helps. Don't we listen? Get the help where you can
Yeah.
until you figure out how to get those words and gather them yourself. Listen, it is a-okay. But let's go ahead because we got a lot of comments coming into the chat. Timothy N adds, I tend to wait for him to provide a segue to the topic. That is good, especially for a D type. Sometimes you just wait for them to bring it back around, and it makes it easier, I think, as an S type. Because sometimes, depending on what I want to talk about, I don't necessarily ask him because he gonna look at me, what's wrong? What you do? I didn't do anything. I just want to talk. I just want to talk. So that is a nice way to be able to talk about what you need to talk about without feeling like you're kind of pushing the topic. And Candy Yams adds, learning to power through the difficult conversations and know that everything isn't an attack. That one, that one. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of humans deal with that.
Yeah.
Am I right, Summer? I think, listen, we already know. Don't hurt my feelings because my feelings going to be hurt. Why you talking to me like that?
Right. You don't love me no more.
Listen, if you didn't love me no more, you could have just said that. Because that's what I heard.
Yeah.
So definitely it's powering through. And also I think it's kind of asking yourself before responding. Are they saying this to be mean? Are they saying this because they love me? Are they saying this because it's in my best interest? So sometimes I think that first reaction, that gut reaction we have to someone, what someone said, is simply because of the words. Sometimes the words land differently, but sometimes we need to take a moment, pause, and think about the intent. Are they really saying this because in my head you were being mean to me and you were cussing me out? That's really what happening, or are they trying to communicate something to me that I may not necessarily like, but is necessary? So definitely those little difficult conversations that make me itch sometimes. Uh, Cole adds, she remembering people don't move as fast as I do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Listen, because why you ain't caught up yet? I feel that one.
Yeah.
This one is good, Queen. I am working on shutting down and using silence as a mechanism. My voice is strong, but can come off aggressive. So when I'm silent, I'm working on self and slowing down my reactions to be able to communicate effectively, soft, and respectfully. Queen, I am with you right there. That is
Yeah.
me. I realize sometimes that I get a kind of a deep voice. It's not super light. And when I am passionate, it gets deeper. It gets aggressive. And people are like, why are you talking to me like that? And it's like, I'm just saying words to you. And then you realize like, oh, that did sound kind of hostile. So I'm right there with you on that one personally
Yeah.
because I shut up now. I take a moment. And sometimes I never even come back to it. I realize that I felt that way in the moment. It unsettled me a little bit, but it's not something that we need to have a discussion about or talk about. And then sometimes I come back and say, sir, permission to speak freely. Um, what you said today, I just want to let you know from my side, X, Y, and Z. So definitely I can relate there with you, Queen. Listen, we could be accountability partners to keep each other quiet.
Yes.
Listen, sometimes
Yes.
just inbox you. Queen, tell me shut up. Okay, I got you. But we're getting better at it. Growth is a beautiful thing, and it is not an overnight process. So baby steps.
Yeah.
I just looked to shut up in this conversation. I'm not thinking beyond this conversation. This one right here, I need to shut up in. So definitely can relate to that. Latif adds, I'm still working on not choosing isolation over solitude when I'm uncomfortable or have taken something personally. And I think a lot of us can relate to that.
Yeah.
I think it's a
Definitely.
protection mechanism. You don't want hurt, you don't want hurt feelings, so you just kind of close off. But don't do it around me because I'm gonna bother you until you talk. After giving you a little window, but I don't want you sitting with bad feelings. That's just who I am. Candy adds, I tend to not address something right away. I think that's the consensus. Oh Lord, I can't speak tonight.
Some S's.
Listen, the consensus is it takes a minute. Sometimes as humans, it's nothing wrong with taking a minute. This whole presentation is saying, communication effectively. Hey, this is really upsetting me right now, or I don't have the words for this, or I need a moment. Just letting them know I'm stepping back. I'm doing some internal working, and then I can step back and we can reapproach this at a later date when I'm more level headed and I'm capable of having a healthy conversation. That's the healthy version. What we want to work away from is just simply shutting down, leaving questions unanswered, even not the ones about the discussion or why aren't they talking to me? They get really quiet. I haven't heard from them. So it's not saying being quiet is wrong. You just want to make sure that you're communicating healthily. Healthily. Is that a word, y'all? It
Yeah.
okay. All
If
right.
it's not, it is today. Period.
Listen, and Sugar ass Chat GPT is helping.
Aw.
Listen, that's my little mini therapist when I can't make it to an appointment. Y'all go talk to Chat GPT and tell Chat GPT what you want to say, and she gonna help you figure it out. So I'm definitely with that. And we have I'm not even gonna pretend with that first name S Night. So we gonna do S Night. Because it don't I don't think I'm pronouncing it right. But S Night he adds sharing more about myself. I am working on to avoid keeping my cards close to my chest. Bree adds, I tend to get quiet when upset or when something bothers me. It's hard to speak my piece without feeling emotional or coming off as though I have an attitude. I can relate to that one, Bree. Practice makes perfect. Just taking those moments. Uh, get quiet, but collect yourself. Don't just sit with the bad feelings. That's the step that matters. Don't sit with the bad feelings. Let's see here. What advice do you have for a single black man new to the LS? Ooh, this is not my ministry. Um, but we have someone here. We have some awesome vets. So we have my sir here if you would like to address that question, sir. Is he here? There he is. He's coming,
What
y'all.
was that? Yeah, I was typing something. What was the question?
What advice do you have for a single black man new to the lifestyle?
Ah, shit, it's that's a wide net, a very broad question. I could go on and on about that. The first thing I would say is go ahead and enroll at www.triskelionsacademy.com. There's a free 7-day trial. You can get all the basics in, and that's important because you got to know what you're talking about. Uh, I would like to talk to you offline if we could, just because I want to kind of keep things on track with this particular question. I mean, this particular course. But we can talk offline about that because I am passionate about helping Black people, Black men, especially in this lifestyle, kind of find their way. So, yeah, just you could hit me in the chat. I'll get with you.
Thank you, sir. Uh, if any other of I know we have some other male vets on here. If anyone else wanted to add some insight to that question, feel free to. All righty. So we're gonna keep going
May
through
I
the
speak?
comments.
I'm not a male. I'm not a black male, but I can speak on it if you like.
Yes, ma'am.
I did comment in the section in the comment section. So I'll just read what I said if that's okay. I
Go
said,
right ahead.
know yourself, figure out who you are in this community, what it is you actually want, desire, and need. Let people know upfront what it is you are looking for. Be okay with the no or the ones not interested. Come in healthy, mentally and emotionally. When you vet, if they aren't fitting, don't settle for no, just move on. Be comfortable with you, be honest, respectful, and be open to communicate. Be kind, but don't settle. So that's what I said in the comment section.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Queen, for that feedback. So we have, if I see some other comments, I'm going to hold off on those till we get to the Q&A at the end. So I'll address some of the comments if need be a little bit later. But let's go ahead and keep going, you guys. Let's see here. Okay. All right. About myself. Okay. Did I find myself? I'm passing this off to. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. I had moved my script all over the place. All right, you guys, we've actually reached the middle section of our Zoom. So I'm going to hand it off to Serenity so she can get us regrounded.
Okay, so we're just going to pause for a moment. Take a breath in and release slowly. Notice where you came in defensive and notice where something felt familiar. Awareness is enough for this moment. Now ask yourself, do I allow people room to grow while still holding them accountable? Take one more breath in and out and stay present.
All righty. Thank you, Serenity. We're going to go ahead and move on to section 4, grace for human limitation. One of the most damaging expectations in power exchange is the idea that roles remove limitation, that dominance must always be emotionally strong, that submissive must always be emotionally stable, that healthy dynamics never experience exhaustion, insecurity, confusion, overwhelm, or relational strain. But roles do not erase nervous systems. They don't erase trauma history. They do not erase stress. They do not erase emotional capacity limits. According to attachment and stress research, emotional bandwidth fluctuates depending on psychological load, environmental stressors, and relational pressure. That was from Bowlby in 1988. And this matters because unrealistic expectations creates performative dynamics instead of honest ones. And you definitely don't want to be performative in a dynamic. It's not genuine and it's not sustainable long term. Which leads me into our second case study, which is performance fatigue. A person inside a dynamic becomes exhausted from trying to maintain an image of constant compatibility. They begin to feel pressure to always appear emotionally composed, confident, available, regulated, unaffected. But over time, emotional exhaustion increases, authenticity decreases, relational anxiety rises, and eventually the person feels less connected to the relationship and more connected to just maintaining the role. According to self-determination, I can't talk tonight, sorry, research, prolonged pressure to suppress authentic emotional experience increases psychological strain and decreases relational well-being. That's from Desi and Ryan in 2000. So what appears externally as strength may internally be emotional fatigue, or we also call that burnout. I think we covered this today in our S-type chat. Definitely performance fatigue, just not being authentic or genuine with your service submission. We do cover that a lot. It's not, so it's, if you are feeling fatigued in your role, in your submissive role, it's kind of good to talk to your dominant, your dame, check in with yourself. If you have a therapist, talk to your therapist to kind of see where that's coming from and get some help with that. Got it, Sheila.
Definitely. You can only pump fake for so long.
Yeah.
I say that all the time.
We do.
Eventually, it gets tiring because you have to. There's intentionality and energy expended into being something that you're not. A lot more than if you came into a situation being true and open about who you are. Eventually, it gets exhausting. Not just physically, but especially mentally and emotionally, because you start forgetting stuff. You start remembering I really don't like this actually peeks through because you said, I love this, let's do it. But you really don't like it. And eventually you can't hide it. So it gets exhausting. So it's definitely something we wanted to highlight because I know a lot of us carry it. So performance doesn't help. You just want to be authentically yourself. That's how you really get to the heart of where you want to be in a dynamic. And now we're going to move on to grace versus enablement, because y'all know I like to shake the table. This is where people actually gonna get real uncomfortable because grace does not, it does not mean the removal of accountability. No. Giving you grace don't mean I get to keep letting you run over my foot. That is not what it means. That means that I saw you were misdirected, you ran over my foot maybe once or twice, and I was understanding. Okay. But after listen, you keep doing it and now I have to hold you accountable. So just because you're giving someone grace or someone's extending you grace doesn't mean you want to take advantage of the situation. Um Accountability does not require the removal of compassion. Too many people believe those concepts oppose each other. They don't. Grace says, I recognize your humanity, I understand growth takes time, and I acknowledge imperfection. But accountability still says impact matters, patterns matters, and repair matters. You can't just break something, get grace for breaking it, and not be willing to put in the work to fix it. It just doesn't work like that. Those things can go in conjunction. It doesn't have to be one or the other, because actually ethical dynamics require both. Because accountability without grace becomes punishment, and grace without accountability becomes enablement. So you actually do yourself more harm than good when you give grace without accountability. Especially in a position where deep trust is necessary, like a DS dynamic. You want to be understanding, and we've all needed grace. I know I've needed grace a lot as I dealt with my mental health diagnosis early on in my dynamic. But that didn't mean that I could keep taking advantage of grace. And eventually, we just had to sit down, like, listen, I get that you're bipolar, but you have to take some accountability for doing the work on your end. So I had to make that effort to not allow my spirals to be other people's spirals, to not allow my symptoms to bleed over into my dynamic. So someone had to hold me accountable while also extending grace. So that combination is what really should be done in a situation where you're looking to have growth.
Definitely. That was a good example. Thank you for that. So after both of those sections, we're going to go ahead and head to the chat. So this question, what do you think people deserve more grace for in relationships while still remaining accountable? Again, what do you think people deserve more grace for in relationships while still remaining accountable? And you can come off mute or you can put it in the chat.
Ooh, Miss Finger, are you off
May I
mute?
speak? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I would have to say that both the Dom and the submissive definitely earned and deserve grace in making mistakes. We all make them in a dynamic and even in conversation. Um, the whole thing of grace that goes without really dressing it up and selling it to someone. Grace and accountability, trust and care. They all are related to each other and they work well together. But I'm going to have to say more grace needs to be given in this lifestyle is by making mistakes, verbally and physically. So that's a powerful word, but sometimes, like you did say, Sheba, people have the tendency to abuse grace. So just make sure you well communicate and respect that you are given grace and it is earned and it is respected. And it takes a strong understanding of communicating with your partner how to execute grace correctly instead of using it a cop out word. So I want to strongly say making mistakes because we all make them.
All right, Miss Finger. Nadine has a question for you in the comments. She said, what is meant when you say making a mistake?
Making a mistake and making, for an example, in a dynamic when it's discussed on how would you like for it to play out. And sometimes we get a little carried away or we get very involved to the point where the other person is not understanding the reading of your body language or even your verbiage could be in moan or even in dirty talking conversation. Sometimes it can be interpreted in a way that, oops, I made a mistake. I didn't mean it that way. Physically, um, And Shibari, tie a person too tight, cut off circulation. Let me fix that. I'm so sorry, I made a mistake. There's so many mistakes, very minute or major. Just make sure that you communicated to the person that received the mistake or making the mistake, know that it was that and it won't reoccur. Because if it reoccur, it wasn't a mistake. Did I make that a little more clear, madam?
She hasn't commented, but it was clear for me.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
wanted to touch on that as well. I just wanted to hit on a mistake is something that, can happen and you learn from it and you grow, you become better. If it continues, it's no longer a mistake. Now it's a pattern. Now you're showing me, the real, who you really truly are inside. So understand that a mistake happens. A mistake might even happen more than once, but a repetitive mistake, that's the same thing. It's no longer a mistake. Now it's almost a conscious decision because I'm making you aware of how this is affecting me. And ultimately you're saying, well, I'm just gonna do it anyway. So sooner or later you're hoping that, I'll get tired of correcting you on it and just kind of leave it. And that's when you start running into that rough waters.
Sir Knight,
So
may I
yeah, I just
speak?
yes, please do.
That's when it transitioned from a mistake to a red flag.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
May I give an example?
Please.
So I'm talking to this D type, and we're still in the process of getting to know each other. It's been about 5 months. Well, we were messaging. We weren't physically talking, we were messaging. And I made a comment that I thought was just clarification, and they let me know it wasn't clarification. And when I further explained it, they said, I appreciate you clarifying that, but you have to understand intent versus impact. So here's where the grace comes in. I was on the phone with them a few nights ago and I said something, and he came back and redirected the question because I said, you should. And he said, should? I said, well, yeah, you should. He said, I should? I said, oh, maybe it's better if I make a suggestion. And he said, yes. So he was correcting, but he was also giving me grace because, the first time he corrected me, my feelings were so hurt. Um, I couldn't talk to him for a couple of days. I was hurt. And then I was able to communicate that to him. But now what he's teaching me is how, this sounds so funny at my big girl age of 52, but he's teaching me how to talk, if that makes sense. Um, so now when he corrects, he gives grace with the correction, but I'm learning where I need to be corrected, and I can take it a lot better because of the first correction, if that makes sense.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Latine, for that. Listen, I've had that correction. It's not what you say as a submissive or slave or bottom. It's how you say it. So that definitely is those words. Just one word can completely change the meaning, as you saw of what that. It went from being a demand to a suggestion. So that was definitely a perfect example. So in the chat, Queen also added, dealing with mental health issues deserves grace in a DS dynamic. We are human and we have to remember to give grace, period, as well as holding each other accountable. Be able to say when you are dealing with something and not expecting the other to read minds, to still submit or be dominant when they are struggling. Yes, ma'am. Grace is, listen, we're humans. We aren't perfect. If we were perfect, we wouldn't be going through a lot of the stuff we going through. I don't think half
Right.
of us be beating on each other either. But that's a different topic for a different day. Um,
Not beaten.
Listen. If we were perfect, I wouldn't need to be hung by my ankles every once in a while. But that's just where we are. Also in the comments, Sugar added, "I know it's not grace when you settle, but is it grace when you shift from your stated preferences?" Hmm, that's a good question, Sugar.
I need to explain it.
Yeah, why not?
Everybody got it. Everybody just reflecting on the answer.
Ah, okay, well,
Everybody.
all
The
right.
way
Now,
the
I was
way
just
you
making
said that,
sure.
I don't understand. And I know I'm the youngest one on this panel, so because I don't like GPG that thing, because I don't know. Whenever I used it, well, the one time I tried to use it, it doesn't seem like the right wording that I would use. So yeah.
You just keep talking to it and feeding it information. And I talk to mine conversationally. And the more I talk to it, the more it learns my language. So then I'll go back and say, I need a text message to send somebody, say this how I would respond. So as you fiddle with it and feed it more information, it's AI, it's weird, it's creepy, but it learns you.
You can
And
ask
that's
for it
what
to be
helps.
simpler too. You can
What was
ask for
that?
it to be you can ask for it to be simpler too. Like you can say, I want a simple answer, or I want this type of answer. I want an answer that shows empathy. I want an answer that shows organization. I've been messing with it, y'all, and plus I have to use it at work. But you can ask for a more simple response. You can they're also, girl, go to threads, make you a threads. They is helping people with the chat GPT on the threads. I sounded real old, I'm so sorry. But yeah, you have to give it, like when you put it in there, because at first I was getting these long drawn out responses. I'm like, hey, I got the mind of a 4-year-old that don't have adult supervision at all times. I need simple. And I told him one day, I was like, hey, say it in dummy terms. And then I got what I needed. But you have to give it, you got to give it some stuff. You have to actually like feed it. It's basically like a baby, or it's basically like a brain that's trying to figure out what you are and how you think. So
Yeah.
you have to give it different. You have to say, hey, make this simple, or can it be more complex? Or I'm trying to show this. I'm trying to show this emotion. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to say this. And I know I should work on it with my randomness and stuff, but that's part of it. Just
Yeah,
asking for more simple stuff.
thank you, Sugar. And Nadine Serenity said if you like, she can give you some prompts to help you program your chat GPT. So you can always inbox her. But we're gonna keep rolling because we are getting close to the end, and you know we don't like keeping y'all longer than we have to. We have gotten to the time of the night where I get real shameless in here. But if this conversation is shifting something for you guys and you want deeper structure, real tools, and guided development, go ahead and tap into Triskelion Academy. It's triskelionsacademy.com. Of course, I know my subsis, my sister wife, is going to put it in the comments for you guys. And of course, you know, all of the references from the material we cited tonight will also be made available in the comments. We know some of you guys like to go back, study things of your own, and we're just giving you snippets from these studies. So sometimes you may want to go get the whole full picture. So all of that information will be presented to you. Now I'm going to swing it right back to my sister wife, Summer.
All righty. So we're going to go ahead at this point and bring in Singa to provide her perspective on the topic tonight. So if you go ahead and grace us, sis, we appreciate it.
So, my thing on grace, DOMs are designed to give structure. Submissives, we are the gifts. We are the light to receive the instruction from the Dom. But this is the thing, there are times when the Dom and the submissive find the instruction comes across a little not well received or a little of confusion. So the Dom breaks it down and give grace to the submissive of understanding. And the submissive give grace and thanks to the Dom in those things. That's communication. Grace is communication. When you communicate and when you respect when you communicate, that's grace. May it be a physical dynamic, a conversational dynamic, or just having a conversation with your Dom or Dami. It's grace. Just like we receive grace from a higher being, we owe each other to give each other grace and patience, because those two are best of friends. It's a growing thing, like she was said, and we are all growing in this together. I am learning from you guys, you're learning from me, and we're giving each other grace at this very moment. And I thank you for grace because we don't give enough grace to each other. So have a good evening. I appreciate all of you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sis.
Miss Sanga. I always love her words, guys. You got to catch her videos. We share them to the group. She shares them on her page. She's always dropping those little minute-based knowledge bombs. It's real quick, but it's insightful. So definitely check that out from her. But now we have final words from me and my co-host, Summer.
All righty. So good evening, or as we wrap up, being human does not disqualify someone from healthy connection.
And I need y'all to know that needing grace does not remove accountability. It does
And
not remove responsibility either, though. So let me throw both of those in there.
yeah, definitely grace is needed for any healthy dynamic. Grace is it really is a continuous daily thing to have a healthy dynamic with effective communication. Grace must be given to everyone in every conversation for sustainability. That's very important. And healthy dynamics make room for both, which I just covered.
Yay. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for taking this time out to sit with us this evening, exchange ideas. If there are things that you guys want to hear us talk about, any ideas that you want to see presented, feel free to inbox me, Serenity, Sir Knight, Summer. We are always here. We're open. A lot of these ideas come out of the chats. We steal these from y'all anyway. So feel free to suggest something to us, and we'll be
Hit on
happy to
something
see if
before
we
you
can
get
bring
out
it
of
to
here.
life. And before we close out, we're going to pass it over to Slur for something insightful, or at the very least, a dad joke.
Indeed, you're gonna get a little bit of both. Um, so I want to hit on something before I go into the joke that I know y'all waiting for. Y'all tune in for my jokes every week. But I do want to hit on something before we get there. Let's talk about trauma and the way trauma shapes and forms each one of our experience in this world, and why we're out here walking around just messing stuff up and knocking stuff over. We don't really know what we're doing out here. This is our first time through this life. So think about these things when you're taking other people into account. Give people grace, because just like you have trauma, they have trauma as well. They have things that's happened in their life that has shaped their reactions to different types of things, or the way they just the way they respond to all types of issues and stuff that might come up. So understand that in that you're giving yourself grace as well. Take it easy on people. Don't be so hard. You know, a lot of people, they don't really mean to be out here messing people up and doing damage. There are some that do, but I found that there's more that they just messed up themselves. They don't really know. So take that into account when you're dealing with people in this lifestyle. None of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. So keep that in consideration. Now, for the fun part, I know y'all been waiting for.
All day, Daddy, all day.
Right. So, what do you think is a pirate's favorite letter? Summer?
I don't know, Daddy. What is it?
It would be the she. She. The she. That was terrible.
Oh,
See,
Oh my God.
Lord, Lord.
All right. That is.
I would have said R.
Sir Knight, may I speak? Sir Knight, may I speak?
Yes. Yes.
Where is Sandman to drag you off the stage, sir?
He in the next room. He'll be get him. I'm like in trouble.
That's crazy.
Oh,
I'm allowed to bomb every now and then. I could bomb.
Oh, Daddy, that was good.
Yeah, but
Get enough
it's
on
funny
it.
you mentioned Sandman. We were just talking about how Sandman, like he come out there and shoot people off the stage. He don't give a fuck about nobody's feelings or nothing. Like,
oh,
oh, it's cold blooded, boy. They laugh at kids. They kick kids off the stage. They don't care.
I got a joke. Can I try?
Okay, yeah, you try.
Okay.
Uh,
Why was Jesus mad with humanity?
Why?
these are jokes. Okay.
Because he got double crossed.
Mm-mm. And that will do it. Good night, Lord.
So thank you for tuning in, y'all. I appreciate y'all spending y'all evening with us. All jokes aside, we look forward to this all week long. From the time we get off to the very next Tuesday, we're looking forward to this. So I appreciate y'all coming and hanging out with us. Come back, somebody, link with somebody who you might be able to gain from this because we're gonna keep doing it. We're not stopping. We're just gonna keep doing it. So as long as y'all keep coming, we on it.
And sir, before we go, I'm sorry, sir. Singa, someone Iza in the comments asked what's your Facebook page. She wants to follow you for your videos.
It's Holistic Singa, and that's Senga.
Yeah.
And I received grace from our group that Sir Knight gives me grace to even allow my videos to be posted in the group. And I thank you very much for that, sir.
Absolutely, absolutely. I wanted to hit on that shirt before we get out of here too, because you always come through with the shirts.
Yeah, she does. She making me one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love the Afro Samurai.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right, y'all. So y'all know I say Forte Arizona. That means stronger together. That's because I really truly believe it in my heart. We do this thing because we love y'all and we love the community. There was nothing like this when I was coming through. There was nothing like this when Single was coming through. So we're trying to build something here. Thank you for building with us and showing up every week. Forte Arizona, and have a good evening.
Okay.
Bye, guys.